You ever feel guilty for resting? Like you're failing the team or missing out on progress, or worst of all, going soft. Yeah, me too. And that guilt, that's the ego talking. That's discipline gone wrong.
Steel and shadow, fists fly high, breaking through limits, I reach for the sky. Martial instincts power my stride, fight principles guiding my fight.
Welcome to Five Principles. I'm Sasha, and today's episode is about a lie that too many of us live, that exhaustion equals excellence. Yeah, we glorify the grind, right? But what happens when that grind eats your life? Yeah, this is a breakdown of the fine line between dedication and self-destruction. Because sometimes what looks like hard work is just you bleeding out for approval. There's this thing, right? Let me paint a picture. There's this fighter who's always in the gym. First in, last out. Didn't matter if he's sick, sore, injured, all the time in the gym. On the surface, warrior spirit. Underneath, he was kind of breaking. Yeah, his timing was off. Recovery was trash, confidence shaken, but he just wouldn't stop because stopping felt like quitting. And to be honest, while I witness this a lot, that also happened to me a lot. Today I didn't go to my Muay Thai training. And I felt terrible for not going there. Yeah, I played volleyball in the morning, beach volleyball. I played for 2 hours. I went to the gym weightlifting. I'm like, I should also go to Muay Thai, because if I don't go, others will go. But for the past week, the past 5 days, I've been hurt. Like I can barely bend my knee. Yeah, the calf is always tight. I'm foam rolling every single time before I do any exercise right now, just to loosen it up a little bit. And I felt so bad for not going. And that's just one example of when I'm being stupid like this. And I'm sure you've done the same thing before. I'm sure you've seen those people before. And that's why we have to realize that burnout isn't weakness. It's a sign that you're carrying more than just weight plates, okay? So as we do it here, the Five Principles podcast, 5 principles to fight discipline distortion today, okay? The first principle, and that's really hard for me as well, as you can hear from my story that I just told you. Principle number 1, and I have to hammer that into my brain all the time. Rest is rebuilding, not retreat. Yeah, in a fight, recovery is part of the plan, right? Without it, you plateau. So why don't we also apply this to life? Mental, emotional, and physical rest doesn't mean you're lazy. It means you're progressing, you're recovering. You're letting your emotions figure stuff out. You're letting your mind figure stuff out. You're letting your body figure stuff out. That is progress. You're not lazy. You're injured. You're tired. You're worn out. That's okay. Then you rebuild. So rest is rebuilding, not retreating, in fight and in life, okay? Another principle / learning from all of this. Again, those principles today, I have to hammer them into my brain myself all the time. Consistency over intensity. Yeah, again, example of a fight. Anyone can go hard once, right? But can you go smart every day? Huh. Yep. In life, I want to stick to a sports metaphor. Burnout happens when we sprint a marathon. Meaning, if you find a sustainable pace, you can achieve long-term excellence. You cannot sprint a marathon, right? You need to have a sustainable pace to actually succeed. Because life, as we all know, just isn't a sprint. So choose consistency over intensity. Of course, at times you have to be intense, but you cannot be intense all the time. If you're intense all the time, how do you amp it up? You gotta be more intense. So consistency is an important key aspect here. Principle number 3, be ready. This one's gonna make you hate me. More isn't a metric to live by, okay? More reps, more rounds, more hours. Without purpose, that leads to burnout. That doesn't help anyone, anything. And that also applies to real life. You are not a productivity machine, okay? It's not like you're a robot. You're a machine where they just add more equals better. That's not how it works. That's not how life works. What do you measure? You measure depth, not just volume. Of course, reps are important. Of course, rounds are important. But if you don't do them with purpose, they're not really helping, right? Mindfulness is very important. In real life, even more so. Do what you do, be mindful. Yeah, one more time, you're not a productivity machine. You're a mindfulness machine, hopefully. You're not a machine, of course. So measure depth, not just volume. Principle number 4. Also hard to swallow, probably. And like all principles today, sacrifice without self-respect is self-harm. You're in a fight. Fighting through pain earns respect, right? We're like, oh my God, this guy or this girl, they, them, whatever, amazing. Overcame the odds, went through it, fantastic. But if you then ignore the pain, that's gonna earn regret. So fighting through the pain, yes. Completely ignoring it afterwards, that's gonna make you regret it. So in life, sometimes you have to work extra hours. Sometimes you have to do things you might not want to do. But always overworking to earn validation will destroy you silently. Yeah, all quietly. You're always overperforming, while you're actually destroying yourself. It's important to not mistake self-abandonment for work ethic. So just because you're taking yourself important, or you're considering you're doing things for yourself that make you happy, that make you feel better, and you chose not to work 24/7, doesn't mean you're a bad person. And the other way around, right? If you completely give up your life for work, for example, doesn't mean you're automatically better at what you're doing, doesn't make you a better person. So don't mistake self-abandonment for work ethic. Okay? Fifth principle for today. In this case, the real fight is energy management. In an actual fight, you need reserves for the final round. Championship rounds, let's go. Final round, let's go. Everything on the line. What does it mean for life? I think for life, it means that time isn't our scarcest resource. I think our scarcest resource is actually energy. Because if your energy runs out, you still got time. What can you do with the time? So, what does it mean? Protect your fire. Simple as that. Be real. Don't let anyone steal your fire. Your fire is all you got. Protect it at all costs. So if we now have our 5 principles right, and we're trying to bring this all a bit together, I think the scariest part about burning out is not the burnout itself, while this of course is terrible, but I think it's that the burnout convinces you that it's your fault. And it's hard to understand and hard to figure out that if you're burning out, that does not mean that you're weak. You're not weak. You're not soft. You're just running on fumes. Because at some point, somewhere, someone taught you that rest equals failure. Stay hard, motherfucker. Sorry. But guess what? You do not get stronger by grinding your soul into dust. You get stronger by knowing when to stop and why. And maybe more of those influencers and whatnot should talk about that as well. Grinding is important. Of course it is important. Of course you have to work hard. We all do though. So don't grind your soul into dust. You know when to stop. Know why to stop. Only then you can progress. And there's this former UFC champion that shares the same quotes over and over again. And that's why I remember that Michael Bisping said that his coach said, sometimes it takes more strength to take a day off rather than to just come to the gym and mail it in. But it's true, right? So if you know when to stop and why, it's going to benefit you in the long run. So for this week, let's try something. And I'm doing exactly this myself, okay? Schedule rest like it's a training session. I'm seriously doing it. I have a day every 10 days right now in my gym weight workout schedule. I have an actual rest scheduled. That's just one example for exercise. You should apply this, and I try this too, also for life, for work. Now you could ask, where am I overperforming to avoid discomfort, for example? And you could just do one thing slower, just one thing. And then you feel the power in restraint. Yeah, I gave you the example of exercising. I'm doing the same thing when it comes to work, to be honest. Right now, it's 9:51 p.m. I'm not going to open my emails anymore, for example. A thing that usually when I'm at home and my computer, I would be like, I work all the time. I get stuff done. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Now I'm also actively choosing not to do it because it's better for my mind. It's hard to figure this out at times. And sometimes you have to force yourself to slow a little bit down, but it will help you in the long run. Let me know how you try to handle all that. How do you try to slow down a little bit? A shout out in the comments, follow at 5 Principles everywhere. You find podcasts and on socials, of course. This was the 5 Principles podcast for today. I'm Sasha, and as you've heard from my examples, I've been there. So if you're there, if you've been there, do shout out. I'm very curious to hear your stories. Because, like I said, we've all been there, right? Burned out, beaten down, still pretending we're fine. So, one last time. You don't have to wear pain like a medal, okay? The thing is, no one's going to give you a pat on the back. It's just the hard truth. So take a break. And after that, you're going to come back sharper than ever. This was 5 Principles. We'll talk next time. Sorry, Cap.
Steel and shadow, fists fly high, breaking through limits, I reach for the sky. Martial instincts power my stride. 5 Principles guiding my fight.